Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening from. Welcome to the Change Management Simplified podcast, where we will explain and discuss what change management is really about, using real examples alongside principles of change management based on our experiences on projects, transformations, change initiatives, and of course, the home experiences as well. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to listening to this very interesting Change Management Simplified podcast. Well, I'm hoping you're finding it actually interesting and beneficial to listen to, but also relatable, because that's one of the main reasons that I actually started doing this podcast, because I wanted to share my experiences, but I know these experiences are relatable to everyone, because not everyone, but at least people in similar scenarios, um, to be able to share some of the the learnings, and for you to avoid some of the pitfalls that I've seen, observed, or also personally have gone through. But I would like to share some good news today. You never guess what. So, my Spotify listeners, thank you for listening. We managed to hit 100 listeners over the Easter period, and therefore, Spotify now allows me to set up a monthly subscription for people to be able to donate. If you like listening to these podcasts for a monthly fee, we will still keep the episodes open, but this is really just to in aid of support for me to continue carrying on doing this podcast and getting the right equipment and making it bigger and better. So look out for the subscription monthly setup. If you're willing to do so, please subscribe. It will be very much appreciated. And now, obviously, I do appreciate you actually coming back and listening to these as well. Unfortunately, my YouTube listeners, YouTube has got a bloody huge target of that. I need to reach 3,000 hours of listening to be able to even open up a some sort of ad partnership for them to actually pay me for the ads they've started actually running on the episodes. But nevertheless, help me share and listen more often, and let's build up to those 3,000 hours so that we can get YouTube as well to monetize our channel and be able to raise funds to help us grow this even bigger. Now, on that note, today's topic is the final one on emotional intelligence, and it is relationship management. And the question we have in front of us is, how do you develop and benefit from emotional intelligence of relationship management? Why is it essential to your success, leadership, and in life? In today's episode, we're breaking it into two. Um, Otherwise, it'll be too long. So, the first part of this episode of relationship management, um, we will focus on what, in general, emotional intelligence of relationship management is about. I'll give some generic examples, not generic in that an example where relationship management comes into play, but also how some senior stakeholders can quickly adapt to it where they're faced in a scenario where they have to quickly engage and get the right people in place that they trust to help them drive some of the activities. And the second part of the episode, which will be a separate episode, this will focus on the three categories that we've been working on over the last three episodes, which is when it goes wrong, how it goes wrong, how you develop relationship management, and also the benefits of emotional intelligence of relationship management and why it's important. So that's how we're going to structure this particular episode, and hopefully you enjoy it. Well, first and foremost, just a quick recap. So we started emotional intelligence leadership episodes from episode 5. So you can go back and listen to those. But just to summarize, we've got four components that make up emotional intelligence: self awareness, social awareness, self-management, and relationship management. We've covered all the other three in episode 6, 7, and 8. So for those who are just listening to this one, go back to episode 5 to 8 and you'll be able to get similar learnings and experiences as described in here. Now, what is emotional intelligence? Relationship management. Well, where can I start? Where do I start? This is not anything new, but again, let's break it down. It's relationship and then management. Those two words, simple to say, but complicated, both in our personal lives as well as work lives as well. We know it's not easy to manage relationships. You have to put in time, you have to put in effort, and you have to build. There has to be a building block to that relationship. Um, at work, it's actually even more difficult because I'm going to speak here from a senior leader perspective. As a senior leader, you're put into a position. It is difficult to it's difficult to lead a team first and foremost that you don't even know. Usually you build on a relationship and manage that relationship with people that you know. You know the strengths, the weaknesses. You share some kind of common interest. Well, as a leader, let's say for example, as a CEO, you've been plucked from one company and you've joined another new company. You don't know these people in these companies, in the new company you're going to. However, as a CEO or as a CFO, as a chief operating officer, you don't have time, a lot of time to build these relationships to be able to understand everybody's strength, interests, and weaknesses. You don't. So you have to quickly get up to speed, use your emotional intelligence quickly. Just based on your experience and of course, you know, the CVs that you might see out there, um, just to quickly get the right people in place.
Now, if you find this podcast beneficial and interesting to listen to, do me a favor. Please press follow and subscribe and share with your friends and families.
However, first and foremost, this should not be a surprise for you to build those relationships and be able to become a successful CEO or CFO in that new company. You have to be self aware. First component that we talked about in episode 6. You have to be self aware of your emotions and be able to recognize them because you're dealing with people. And therefore, you have to be able to recognize and understand your emotions first before you understand the others. Secondly, not to surprise again, you need to have self-management skill set. How do you deal with those emotions? How do you react and how do they impact those around you? It's important. Number three, you have to be socially aware. How do you need to be, firstly, before you can be socially aware, you have to, one, be self-aware, so, and then be able to manage your emotions before you can also be able to recognize the negative emotions or the adverse emotions that someone might be going through, and therefore be able to come up with the tools and the response to turn it from negative to positive. Be able to have to a common to come to a common understanding and manage the situation appropriately. And then number 4, once you have number 1, 2, and 3, which is self-awareness, self-management, and social awareness, you would be able to manage relationships or relationship management from this emotional intelligence topic. Um, to some people, this is not rocket science, but it is rocket science as human beings because we are simple but complicated creatures. We sometimes forget and react in the moment of a scenario and later on regret it. But as a senior leader, you don't have that flexibility. You don't really have the space to react in an adverse way and expect people to continue respecting you in the same way, or even find you inspiring, or even see you as a leader. There's this pedestal that we put you at as senior leaders, that you have to constantly maintain that, and therefore it's important for you to continuously develop these skills. um, I'll give you an example away from the whole leadership aspect. Actually, I will use the leaders in firstly, and then I'll go to a normal example. What CEOs or group CFOs or chief operating officers usually do, and we've seen this in big corporates, where they know they don't have a lot of time to understand all people, all their direct peers. Let's just say all their direct reports, emotions and their weaknesses and strength. What they usually do, which some people we don't like, but once they move to a new company, I can guarantee you within 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, they will appoint someone they previously worked with. This will be a person that they trust, they can rely on, and also respect, but also know their strengths and weaknesses. They know their emotions, and they know they'll be able to understand them, but also be able to work with them and manage them. So they have a relationship that they built over the working relationship they've built over the years. And this is what usually happens to help the CEOs or the group CFOs, those moving in big roles, to help them settle and be able to come in and quickly push through changes with those who they worked with before, to help them get success, but also to get settled within the company. Yes, we don't usually like it. Those who were in the company and we applied for those roles and didn't get it, we don't like it. We absolutely hate it, and you should not be surprised about it. However, when I take a step back, I understand why, such moves are made, because you have to find a way of quickly making your role a success and make improvements, because you've got shareholders looking at you, you've got business analysts looking at you. The company's value, more or less is dependent on your success. So you have to do something to help you quickly achieve the success. Understandably, we hate it, but it is the truth, and we just have to get over it.
Now, if you find this podcast beneficial and interesting to listen to, do me a favor. Please press follow and subscribe, and share with your friends and families.
Um, However, if I bring it back to a personal experience, not personal to me, but one that you could relate to. Here again, we're going back to the point of, you don't have to be an expert or have high IQ to be a successful leader or an effective leader. You just have to have the right tools, emotional intelligence of the four components to make you a success. For example, I don't know if any of you guys have watched The Big Bang Theory. To me, these characters have the classic case studies of emotional intelligence, but I'm going to focus on Sheldon. He's one of my favorite characters. So, Sheldon, very clever, very smart, very high, he's got very high IQ. However, we all know Sheldon lacks emotional intelligence, because he just says what he says without considering the impact on other people, but also he only thinks about himself. Um, and then, however, Amy came along Amy came along, who turned out to be his girlfriend. However, Amy equally smart, but she had more emotional intelligence than Sheldon. Um, so, with Amy knowing and recognizing her emotions, um, she somehow managed to um, apply the four different components of emotional intelligence, of being one self-aware of her feelings and recognizing her emotions, but also managing them, knowing that Sheldon does not quite understand his feelings at all. She slowly, gradually told him how to recognize those feelings, explained to him those feelings, and then eventually Sheldon adapted to those feelings and started to acknowledge and understand how also Amy felt. With all these components together, eventually through the series, I'm sorry if you haven't come to the end yet, so spoiler alert, eventually Sheldon recognized his feelings and they managed to have a good personal relationship between the both of them. However, Amy exercised patience, she exercised social awareness, she exercised social self-management as well as self-awareness. So it's the same thing, same principles that we apply in life in normal relationships are the same principles we have to apply at work as well. However, work we don't usually have as much time, so we have to find ways of recognizing the gaps and trying to plug them. Hence, to this point, sometimes I justify why senior leaders bring in other people they previously worked with to come and help them, pick up or take up some of the roles in the new company to help them move quickly. So based on that, as you can see, relationship management is really about the ability of maintaining and influencing positively, like Amy did, um, as well as inspiring and creating meaningful, and I mean the word meaningful and value add relationships, both from a work and also personal life. Um, Mentioned, it does require time and effort, because you need to build that trust, but also you need to care about what you are working on or what you're asking people to work on. If you don't have that, or if you don't care about something, it also naturally comes across and people can read. They read the body language and the tone of the voice that you don't really care. So there is no inspiration there. Now, on that note, tune into episode 10, which will be part 2 of the emotional intelligence relationship management episode. And in there, we will discuss when it goes wrong, how it goes wrong, how to develop relationship management, and the benefits. See you there. Thank you for listening.
If you find this podcast beneficial or interesting, please press follow, like, or subscribe. Lastly, and of course, don't forget to spread the word by sharing. Thank you for listening.